Ah, no way, man. Snakes are gross and slimy. Man, the only good snake is a dead snake. I don't know. I've just always been afraid of them. Why? I don't know. They're creepy. They're creepy. I don't like them. So, if you're a reptile keeper or person who keeps arachnids or amphibians, you probably heard some of those things at least once. Probably a lot more than once. But what we're going to be talking about today on Creeping It Real with Rob is we're going to be talking about the public's perception of reptiles and amphibians and arachnids and how we can kind of help mold and shape that. Because a lot of the public's perception of these animals is skewed by the media. Because in a movie, they saw a snake bite somebody and they died immediately. They saw a tarantula jump on somebody's face from 20 feet away and ah! For people who actually work with these animals on a daily basis, we know that they're not these monsters. But for the vast majority of the public, they don't have a point of reference. When you don't know what a snake or a spider or a frog can be, it can be anything. A snake can strike from this far away, and it can chase you very, very far. They're very quick, don't you know? And a spider or a tarantula or a scorpion, if they bite or sting you, you will die immediately. That's not the case. And for people who keep these animals, we know that. But our goal or our job should be to get accurate information out. Because we live in a day and age where information is everywhere. You can go on YouTube, you can go on Wikipedia, you can go on Facebook, you can look all over the place and get sources and get information from lots and lots of different viewpoints. And so some people are just going to look for the viewpoints that match their ideas, saying that all snakes are deadly and they're going to kill you and they're super scary. And then there's going to be the people who keep reptiles like me who know that that's not really the case. And our goal ultimately should be to share our love about these animals and for these animals with other people. Because once people see that these animals are not as deadly and scary and dangerous as, they thought they were, they can have a better appreciation for these animals and they can start to learn about them. So, first thing we're going to kind of talk about is how what people don't know can kind of actually really hurt them. So, a lot of people have this perception or this idea that, all snakes are deadly and all snakes are going to try and eat you or they're going to try and kill you, when that's not the case. I've heard a lot of people reiterate the story of, oh, I know somebody that had a boa that was laying down next to her in bed and it was definitely sizing her up to see if it could eat her. Okay, pause. Let's think about this for a second. A snake out in the wild has to catch prey items. It has to catch animals that generally have feet and legs. They're not going to sit there and wait for a snake to lay down next to them to see if they're small enough to eat. What animal in their right mind would do that? It's just not practical. So in a lot of these stories and myths that are told and reiterated down are just meant to scare people and make people feel uncomfortable and just kind of, overwhelm them with that fear of the unknown. Because if they don't know, they don't know. They have no idea. They don't have any sort of point of reference. And so, let's see, another one that I hear all the time is that all scorpions can kill you. And they're going to sting you no matter what. Or if you pick up a python, it's going to try and wrap around your neck and it's going to try and kill you. I work with pythons every single day, and I'm still here. Still alive. I also love to work with scorpions and tarantulas as well. I've actually never been bit by a tarantula, knock on wood, but I'm very safe in my handling practices, and so that's kind of something that I pride myself on. I've never been bit by a tarantula. And scorpions, again, not all scorpions are deadly, and honestly, there's quite a few species of scorpion that have a fairly mild venom. You gotta figure, most venomous animals, their venom is not really used for, like, venomous snakes and tarantulas and scorpions and spiders. They use their venom to kill their food. It's not really designed to kill a big animal like a human. So even for some of the most toxic venomous snakes on the planet, it can take anywhere from, as long as you don't have an allergic reaction, it can take anywhere from an hour or 2 hours up to 10 to 15 hours to actually die from a potent venomous snake bite. that is not a very good form of defense. Think about it. If a snake bites a large animal like a deer or a coyote, and it takes several hours for that venom to take effect enough to kill that predator or that animal that could potentially kill this snake, do you think that it's going to have enough time to, retaliate and to hurt that snake back? Absolutely. Most larger animals are not going to sit there and go, ow, that thing hurt. Let me just walk away. They're probably going to either stomp on it or bite it, try to make that pain stop, and it's not going to be a good end for the snake. It's probably going to end up dead. And that's no good for its survival, its breeding, and its continuity. These animals really don't want to have to waste their venom. It's literally just a last-ditch effort for these sort of animals. They would much rather go about their business and kind of stay hidden and out of the way than have to deal with large predatory animals, especially ones that they can't effectively defend themselves against. Non-venomous snakes, you gotta figure, most of them, they don't have very large mouths, and when they are born, they're very small. So if any sort of animal has got a protection of skin or feathers, like thick skin, feathers, scales, fur, something like that, they're not going to be deterred by the little tiny bite of a little baby snake. So snakes in general are not a very high up the food chain item. They're not very high up the food chain. So lots of different creatures eat them while they're small. And once you start to bring up these facts about these animals, people kind of start to get their mind starts moving, and they start to kind of realize, hey, wait a second, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, all those things make sense. Why was I afraid of these snakes? Why was I afraid of spiders? Why was I afraid of frogs? Or whatever it may be. And a lot of it has to do just with misinformation and then also not knowing. So what we can do is share more information. The more information you know, the better equipped you are to kind of help mold and shape and change people's minds. And so just do a little bit of research. If you keep ball pythons, find out what ball pythons do. You know that it hangs out in your tank and it's got, it eats every week and whatever. But the more you learn about them, the more you can kind of teach people about them. And so I'll use ball pythons as an example because they are a really popular pet reptile. A lot of people don't realize that ball pythons are like super timid. They hear python and they think, it's giant! And then, they say, how big does it get? And you say 4 feet. And they think, it's this big around, like 4 feet is going to swallow your body. But then when you show them an actual adult ball python and it fits curled up in your hands, they go, well, wait a second. I had a completely different idea of what that was in my mind. I heard python and what sounds like a big size. And that's not what I was expecting. So the more that we can kind of show people and teach people about these animals, the better we can kind of get people onto our side of understanding what these animals are like. And so, one thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to confront myths, because a lot of people's perception is based in misinformation or myths or, random stories that may not have to do with anything in reality. A big one that I see in the store where I work is when I take out a snake and it wraps around my arm or is sitting on my shoulder and wraps kind of around the back of my neck, and they're saying, oh my God, it's constricting you. It's going to kill you. But, for those people, you just got to kind of reiterate, okay, look, a snake doesn't have any arms or legs. So how is it supposed to hold on to me right now? It's got to use its body. When a snake wants to kill something, generally they bite onto it. You can see that its snake is not trying to bite me. It doesn't see me as a food item. And also reiterate, if you're holding a snake several feet up off the ground, if you were to just let go and drop this snake, or it was to lose its balance and fall out of your hands, there's a very real possibility that that animal could get hurt. And so that snake doesn't want to do that. They don't want to fall. They don't want to get hurt. So, just kind of work with some of that information and kind of show these people that these animals are not that, they're not evil monsters. They're just another animal. And they kind of have to be taken care of as so. And another thing I get is all snakes are deadly, or if they bite you, it's going to kill you. And, how many times have you gotten bit? That's a question I get all the time. And in reality, when it comes down to it, I don't really get bit all that much. I really respect these animals hardcore. I love reptiles. I love snakes. I love spiders. And when I come to this animal, look at it from that animal's perspective. This snake is several times smaller than you. Think about it. If a giant went into your home, picked up the roof, and scooped you up, might be a little bit scared. And so if you get bit, sometimes that happens. But with most non-venomous snakes, it's very rarely a very painful thing. If you've got any piercings or tattoos, I can tell you it hurts a lot less than those. And if you've ever gotten a paper cut, it hurts less than that. The majority of the time, it hurts way less than a paper cut. And so, for these people, kind of show them the snake's perspective, And another thing is, I get a lot of people who don't really have a point of reference on how to work with and handle snakes. So when they go about it, when I hand them a snake, the first thing they want to do is go straight for its head. Because like a cat or a dog, that's typically what most people would do. But a snake is not a cat, it's not a dog. Same thing with geckos and lizards and things like that. They're from, these animals are a lot more primitive. And so when another animal is going for a snake's head, or a gecko's head, or a lizard's head, a lot of times in the wild, that would mean I'm about to get eaten. So these animals don't have any arms or legs in order to go, hey, wait, no, don't, that's scary, this is very unusual. Or, talk to them, how would you like it if I walked up to you and just within meeting you, I went straight for your face? Probably not going to be too happy about it. And then, people's minds start to get going, okay, that makes sense, absolutely. And so when you're working with these snakes, just handle them with respect. Support their body, not straight by their neck, not right up by the head. Hold them by their body, support their body and their weight, and they're a lot less likely to bite you, honestly. I don't get bit all that very often because I respect the heck out of these animals, and I try my best to make sure that they're the most comfortable while I'm working with and handling them. And so, another thing I want to talk about, real quick, I don't want to really dwell on this for too long, is venomous snakes, because people think venomous snakes, deadly, they're going to kill you, they're horrible, and they chase you, and they kill hundreds and thousands of people, and they're... And if you look at the actual statistics for venomous snakes in the United States, in the U.S., there's typically about 5 people each year that die from venomous snake bites. If you get to the hospital within a certain amount of time, there's a very good possibility that you can outlive a venomous snake bite. But to put that into perspective, some other little statistics here. But in the United States, there's about 10 to 20 people every single year that die from vending machine accidents trying to get that last bag of chips out. There's about 40 to 50 people every single year that die from lightning strikes. And there's about 150 to 200 people every single year that die from food allergies in the U.S. So, you're more likely to get crushed by a vending machine, hit by lightning, or dying from a food allergy, you developed an allergy down the road, than to be killed by a venomous snake. But people in the U.S. are really afraid of snakes in particular. They're very scared, and they find a snake in their yard. It's deadly! It's going to kill me! Honestly, think about it. Venomous snakes are just another type of snake, and they don't really want to be around a big, scary animal that's 100 feet tall that they can't really defend themselves against. They really just want to live their life and kind of stay hidden. So if you ever see a snake out in the wild, you're not really sure whether it's venomous or whether it's non-venomous, and you don't know, you know what the best way to not get bit is? Leave it alone. Don't mess with it. If you walk the other way, there's no way that animal is catching up to you. Even some of those fast snakes on the planet can only go at a brisk walk's pace. So, not even something to worry about. So getting off of that, getting back to the stuff that's actually applicable to how we can work with and kind of make this hobby better. Another thing that I get a lot of times, people are thinking that snakes are slimy. Reptiles are covered in scales. They don't have any sweat glands, so they can't really be wet. If they're sitting in something that's wet, that's different. That's not the actual snake or reptile being wet. That's whatever they're sitting in. But if you touch a snake, like a lot of people feel it, and they're like, wow, this is so much smoother than I was expecting. Or they think it's wet, and they touch it, and they go feel their fingers, and they're like, wait, my fingers are dry, but this feels almost wet. And that's basically just the smoothness of the scales and the reflection of the light off of a lot of python and boas in particular, their scales, makes people think that they are glossy or wet or slimy, when that's not really the case. So these animals are very shy and they're very reclusive. And another thing that I get a lot of people are very upset about in the U.S. in particular, is that we are taking these animals out of the wild. And that's really not the case for the most part. Most of the snakes that are kept and bred in the United States are species that are just that. They're not wild. They're captive bred. Their parents were born in captivity. Their grandparents were born in captivity. Ball pythons have been bred in the industry or in the United States for about 30 years or more. Boas are another one that has been bred for 30 or 40 years or more. Burmese pythons, another one, 30 or 40 years. Longer than that, these animals have been bred in captivity. So at this point, our goal in captivity is to breed these animals and work with them in a captive setting. And that way we don't have to rely on taking them out of the wild. We would much rather see these animals happy and out in the wild, but if we can get to a chance to experience them in person and have them in our homes, they're also a great pet. And so I've been looking at a couple different people who do outreach and things like that as well, and we're trying to work on a new trend. We want to see this kind of blow up. We would like to see you guys participate in this. So we're going to be working on a hashtag to go around that's going to be exotic but not wild. Because a lot of people have this perception that all exotic pets are taken from the wild. We tore these animals out of their home where they are much more happy and they're much more content, and then we're keeping them in captivity, and it's horrible and terrible, and we don't love these animals. When if you talk to someone who loves their bearded dragon, or talk to someone who has a crested gecko or a ball python, they love that animal. I guarantee it. People are passionate about their reptiles. And so we want to kind of make this trend kind of so that people can go look. They can see that, we're not taking these animals out of the wild. These are animals that we're breeding in captivity. And one animal that I want to talk about real quick is one that is really interesting to me and a lot of people actually like. It's not a super advanced species. It's one that is pretty easy to keep, and it's one that is functionally extinct out in the wild. But it's something that's bred in captivity by the tens of thousands. So this right here is called a crested gecko. Crested geckos come from New Caledonia. And like I was just mentioning, these guys are pretty much extinct out in the wild. And if we hadn't been breeding them in captivity, this would be extinct. This is an animal that would no longer be on the face of the planet. You would look in a book and see crested gecko or eyelash gecko, and that would be it. There'd be a couple pictures, and that's it. You wouldn't be able to see these animals in person. But because we brought them into the pet trade and worked with breeding them and reproducing them in captivity, now these animals are, bred by the tens of thousands, and they're readily available. So, we're not just working with, just breeding ball pythons. We're not just breeding things to have cool mutations and have unusual color patterns and morphs and things like that. This also has a conservation aspect because, without captive breeding, things like crested geckos would have gone extinct years and years ago. And so what I want you guys to do is, if you guys have a pet that you find really interesting, like a reptile or an amphibian or an arachnid, even any other sort of exotic pet, I want you guys, when you post pictures on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you decide to post your pictures, or you share your stories, hashtag it exotic but not wild, or just hashtag not wild, so that people can kind of go there, see this resource, and learn a little bit that, not all of these reptiles are these crazy exotic or crazy wild animals. These animals are born in captivity. See if I can get her to jump here. They're born in captivity, and they're raised here, and we love our reptiles a lot. That's what I'm here to tell you guys. If you don't take anything else away from this video, I want you to take away that people who keep reptiles love their reptiles. We care about our reptiles. And we just want to share our love for these animals with you. So if someone directed you to this video, I hope you guys had a good takeaway from that. If you did enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up or give it a like, and share this video with someone you know who might not like reptiles, so that maybe they can learn a little bit. Or take the things that I've taught you in this video and use it in your life. Use it in your life in order to help kind of mold people's minds. Because change doesn't just start with me, it starts with you. And so we're kind of wrap up right now real quick. I just want to share with you guys one last thing before we wrap up. One thing that my dad always taught me is that if you have an abundance of something, you should share it with the people around you. And I have an abundance of love for my reptiles. And so I want to share that with as many people as I can. And if you've got love for your reptiles, I hope that you share that love too. So share this video with someone and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned, subscribe to my channel, and we'll be checking out more hot issues on Creeping It Real with Rob.